Have you ever had a guest who completely ignored all the house rules? I swear that question could fill an entire notebook of horror comedy stories from my life as a New York Airbnb host. The one that sticks in my mind happened in the Orchard Street flat right in the heart of the Lower East Side. It started on a Tuesday morning when I got the booking, a solo traveler from Australia, mid-20s, coming in for a week. Normally, solo guests are easy, quiet, tidy, maybe leave a thank you note, but something about this one felt off from the start. I chalked it up to preconceptions and set up the usual. Fresh towels, some coffee pods in the kitchen, a quick check to make sure the Wi-Fi was actually working. Orchard Street is lively, but the flat itself is deceptively calm, so I figured he'd be fine. He arrived late afternoon, carrying 3 backpacks like he was moving in for a month instead of a week. He breezed past my welcome spiel, barely looking at the apartment, and said, cool, thanks. Then, as if on autopilot, he unpacked in record speed and disappeared into the bedroom. The first night was quiet, too quiet. I walked by the building around 10 p.m. and noticed lights on in the flat. Good, right? But then I heard the faint sound of some weird instrument I couldn't place, like a ukulele meeting a synthesizer. I shrugged. Lower East Side is eclectic. I didn't worry. The next day, I got a text. The bed is too small. Can you bring a mattress topper? I sighed, grabbed a topper from storage, and left it in the apartment. When I peeked later, the topper was on the floor, half hanging off the bed, and he'd built this bizarre little fort of backpacks around it. I mean, okay, creative, I guess. Things escalated that evening. I got a complaint from the neighbor downstairs. Somebody is loudly rearranging furniture at 2 a.m. I called him, politely, thinking maybe he was just moving a chair, and he answered with a sleepy, yeah, I like to test the acoustics at night. At first I thought he was joking. He wasn't. By midweek, I'd stopped trying to micromanage. He left a trail of empty snack wrappers, weird sketches taped to the walls, and once I caught him trying to feed a stray cat through the fire escape. I made a mental note. Document everything. Checkout morning. I walked in expecting a mess, but the flat was eerily pristine, except for one thing. On the coffee table, there was a small envelope. I opened it. Inside was a single Polaroid of the apartment, perfectly framed. But the twist? There was a tiny, hand-drawn face on every piece of furniture. Each chair, lamp, and pillow had a smiley little doodle staring back at me. At first I panicked, thinking he'd done some permanent damage. But the faces were drawn on little slips of paper tucked under cushions or taped to the bottom of lamps. Harmless, but unexpected. Then I noticed a tiny note tucked behind the Polaroid. Thanks for letting me turn your flat into my gallery. I hope you don't mind the audience. I laughed nervously, partly relieved, partly unsettled. The flat looked untouched, but those little faces felt like they were still watching me. I've hosted plenty of quirky guests before, but this one left a presence behind. I spent the next hour carefully removing the doodles, but honestly, every time I clean that apartment, I half expect to see one peeking at me from under the sofa. Now, whenever someone books Orchard Street, I smile at the thought that maybe, just maybe, some of them will be strange in a charming, harmless way. It keeps hosting exciting or terrifying, depending on how you look at it. Either way, I always check under the lamps now.